Morning, Ian.
Morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Just navigating the challenges of new child. Got her vaccinations the other day, and she was running a little hot.
There's
but
always something, right?
yeah, but things are good. Things are good.
It's
She
good to
uh,
hear.
she tried some cherry flavored Tylenol, and was the first thing she's tried other than milk, and it blew her mind. Her face was this is so cute.
Yeah, the faces when they just do anything new. It's like the hair dryer was always really good. Or our daughter, our youngest, she's just about a year, hates the bath. Even when she hears the water starting to run, it's just full meltdown.
Oh man, yeah.
So it's just funny, like the little things. But they remind me of pets in a way. Like there's just everything's so excited, like a new, fresh experience. And then, I shouldn't call my kids pets, but it's fun.
Well, it is kind of like pets. We have a cat, and I was dangling a string in front of my daughter, and she was like super entertained by it. So
Yeah,
I think there's a few
there's a bit of
parallels for
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although she is starting to recognize herself in the mirror, my daughter, which my cat can't do. So she's already, I think,
The
a
pets that
little bit.
evolve and grow up, it's like this constant progression. It's super cool.
Yeah, it is. It's very fun. It's getting more fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, topics for today. I was in New York last week for a conference that we hosted,
Yeah.
and you've been building all kinds of crazy stuff between diaper changes and meal prep and the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Conference and vibe coding. I think there are two topics. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't at the conference. Sounded like it was great. Covered a lot of stuff. I'd love to hear your takeaways. I mean, I looked at the presentation. There's some really cool, surprising numbers in here for sure.
Yeah, I guess just to set the stage. So we were in New York. We hosted 130, 140 investors from across North America. So everything from big PE, hedge funds, major banks, etc. And really, the purpose of the day was to try and unpack and uncover some of the best investment opportunities for 2026 in energy. And it was everything spanning from power, renewables, oil, gas, international, North America focused. So really a wide range and some pretty spectacular speakers in the panels as well. So awesome event. Lots of takeaways here. I guess a couple that jumped out to me was just on the oil side, sort of this persistent bullish view, which is kind of nice to see. Like, I mean, it's been a tough quarter or two. Oil's bounced a little bit in the last few weeks, but I think the overall sentiment was, especially into 2027, a lot more optimism. Equally interesting though is just like different reasons why, right? Some
Yeah.
folks were centered on, hey, we're depleting inventory. I think that's an older, axe or saw to work with. Others kind of looking at the OPEC overhang. So you've had a lot more barrels released in the market. That's getting worked off, and that's kind of put a lid on things for a number of years here. And so as we work through that, you can kind of imagine that digestion. Some pointed to the price of oil relative to gold. Obviously, gold's run up a lot, but if you run it in those metrics, your 50-year lows maybe worse, maybe longer in terms of that ratio. So pretty spectacular disconnect there. And then last one, just looking at exploration and reserve replacement globally, and you look at some of those big majors, a lot of them are replacing well below one, and so this depleting resource base. So you throw all that stuff together, like different reasons why sentiment bullish, and that obviously leads to a bunch of different choices about how you might play that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it always surprises me I think the whole tier one inventory narrative declining is very optimistic for, say, oil prices. Same with the exploration piece, which we've talked about before. I think there's an EIA report we went over about the sort of depleting exploration a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But what surprises me is how little development we see from unconventional players globally.
Yeah.
We see it in South America, but there's a lot of unconventional reserves out there that just haven't been developed, and I wonder how that evolves if prices rise. sort of in the future, right? Because if other countries can replicate what the United States has done, I mean, not saying that they all have the same quality of shale,
Yeah.
but
Well, it's interesting because like a few people brought that up, and it's sort of like, where do you go next? And there was, do you go to tier 2 basins or tier 2 inventory, and just go down the curve? It's not like we're short inventory; we're just short tier 1 inventory.
mm-hmm.
There are others that were, hey, let's export the technology to other basins around the world. Obviously, Argentina, the Vaca is a great place to play. You're seeing bits of that in the Middle East, but these aren't the only locations in the world that have good resource. There's a whole bunch of ecosystem reasons that have led to those other basins not being developed. And then others looking at, hey, what can we do with this technology with, similar but not the same resource bases? So, tight geology with thick vertical sections. If you 5,000-6,000 feet of hydrocarbon vertical section, do you just go use that? Or do you look at some of the more fringy conventional stuff? So there's a lot of different ideas about where to go, and I think a lot more disagreement about what the right choice is between technical risk, and then geopolitical risk came up quite a bit. Is like different views about the balance of risk going domestically or North America focused versus more global jurisdictions.
Yeah, well, that's the geopolitical side. Is I mean, there's a good chart in the presentation about sort of rising geopolitical risk.
It was surprising it came up as much as it did. Like, we threw it in there as just like, not sure we should put it in, but it came up quite a few times. And some folks are like, hey, we should definitely go international, right? And I think, one fund was like, yeah, we just did a deal in the Congo. Another guy's like, I played this game internationally. People are deeply underappreciating the risk of some of these jurisdictions just because we haven't played there a lot for a lot of years and it's been a bit quieter. And so just very different perspectives. Like, I will never go there, to like, well, we should probably go there now.
Yeah. I guess you need to see some history of stability to give you confidence that.
Yeah, but just different interpretations. Like, is it stable because we haven't done anything, or is it stable because it's actually stable, right? And very different views about what that looks like. And obviously, the truth will matter, or the truth will be different depending on which place you're looking at.
Yeah. I mean, the other areas of expansion as well is just with technology. I mean, we've been exploring CO2 enhanced oil recovery a lot more. I know China's doing a lot of EOR, right? And how does that evolve, right? Can we just completely reinvigorate North American shale with a change in extraction technique, right?
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see if that evolves, how that evolves. I mean, I think there will be some evolution there.
What's interesting and I think important is that several years ago, there would not have been bets around really any of those ideas. And when you sat in that room, while there wasn't consensus of where the next bet should be, there's certainly been bets being placed across all those places. So I think that was a pretty big shift. The other one was around gas and gas-fired generation. I think we heard almost every panel talk about the rapid appreciation of baseload and especially gas-fired power. And if you look at those assets, they've more or less tripled in value over the last 2 or 3 years, just looking at asset markets. And so the big question is, has it topped out? Has it not? Where does it go from here? And you heard the whole mix from people that were still willing buyers, people that were still, very interested in building net new. And then a handful of folks who's like, yeah, we've got assets for sale. We're happy to sell them right now. And so just a real, bifurcation of where people are positioned around it. But I think everyone was pretty clear that maybe it doesn't go higher, but there's a sense of at least a floor and some stability, at least at these prices here. And it's going to be an important part of the market for a while.
Yeah. It's incredible just to see how much generation is coming online, supporting hyperscalers. It's a great slide of bring your own generation, looking at sort of how that's evolved and continues to evolve. Just the amount of spending just on sort of electrical assets itself on hyperscalers. Like it's a crazy environment right now.
Yeah, so we had 40 gigawatts in the deck. I think we've seen reports even the last couple of days since we got back that it might be over 50. It just seems like, well, you look at the sentiment shift around trying to protect ratepayers from demand growth, especially with the huge capex budgets that big tech's bringing to this space. You look at the interconnection queue frictions. You kind of put all that together, and there's a lot of momentum and pressure to kind of build behind the meter and bring your own generation. So I think the question is like not just how much of that's going to happen, but does it actually end up being connected to the grid or not? Does it at some point you just choose to remain islanded, and you already have to hit your reliability metrics. You're already going to have to compensate ratepayers for reliability or payout for all the infrastructure. So like, why bother? Like, just do it yourself, kind of thing. So it'd be interesting how that plays out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it showed up in some of the work we presented around IPP valuations, because you've seen those stocks really ran through 24 into first half of 25 on the back of this big power demand theme. But if more and more of that load's going to happen off grid, the IPPs don't necessarily benefit from it. And so a lot of those stocks have kind of turned. Like, you've got Talon, I think, down 20% in the last 2 or 3 months, and most of those IPPs down markedly over the last couple of months as the behind the meter thread comes through. So definitely like shifting winds around winners and losers.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, speaking of demand for energy for these hyperscalers, and regardless of where they're getting their energy from, I think I'm definitely using a lot of it with vibe coding lately.
yeah, I mean, you're doing some crazy cool stuff. So tell us some of the stuff you're up to.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen this. I've seen this inflection point where it's just gotten to a level where you can really build your own front end solution for pretty much anything in an evening, which is really fun. Like, and I think it's unlocked the ability to think about some of these things in a completely different way. So, for example, building an economic model, right? Previously, do it in Excel. You'd have 30, 50,000 lines in there that all have sort of dependencies on one another. Cells referencing one another can break. When you make changes, you have to change those cell references, and the time spent thinking on what the model could be or what the model could do, I think, is spent on building the model. And now instead, you can spend the time asking an LLM to build that for you with a user interface that has graphics that update for you, so you can see how changes affect, for example, an LCOE or an NPV or the IRR of a project, and make tweaks. Say, well, I don't think that makes sense. Where is the discrepancy in there? And I mean, it's just, I think, unlocked a wave of creativity for building things.
Yeah.
But also the ability to build those things much more quickly. And so, building, for example, an economic model or a log viewer with the ability to export logs in a graphics ready format, for example, like it's pretty cool what people without a strong software engineering background can start to build.
Yeah. And I mean, we're seeing this across the team, and I'm sure there's many other examples. And I mean, the economic model is an interesting one, because I've seen amazing examples from yourself and others around, let's do that as a software package. But others now also with, AI enabled Excel models. So like, again, a similar type of format where it's very easy and quick, and it's really about driving the insight into the model rather than the construction of the model. And it's just now like you've got this sort of multitude of mediums in which you can work with. The consistent thing, though, is like the ability to put insight into what's going in there, and then choosing your medium of preference. And there's different reasons to go either way. I think the UI that you're able to build is a pretty remarkable thing with the software side of it. The sort of comfort and audibility of Excel is also pretty compelling in other ways. It's really cool to see how fast you can construct those things.
Yeah, no, I agree. The trade-offs between the ability to audit a model through Excel, which is
picking the right tool for the right purpose, right? You
for sure.
Hammer to put a screw in, right?
Yeah, but I think, to your point, it is about putting the insights into those models rather than building the models, and the ability to put just a way higher level of insight into a model, because you can think of those things and see them change in real time and react to I mean, just having a thought and be like, before I'd be like, that's going to take me, 2 or 3 days to build in. Is it really necessary? Does it really improve it that much? Now
Yeah,
it's more like, well, might as well. Like,
super
like
easy.
if
We
it,
just do it
it
between
improves it a little bit,
during the pasta, right?
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I think that's been really cool, and excited to see how that evolves because, um, as uh, our chief product officer likes to say, AI is the worst it's ever going to be. So
yeah. Well, you put that into the apocalypse in the markets where, and for a long time software was eating the world. Now AI is eating software, and I think just the excitement you feel is turning into pure fear and panic in the market with a lot of these SaaS companies.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's ways to adapt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's probably a good conversation for our next chat, is just how to adapt and some of the thinking through the implications.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I got to jump to another call, but it's always good to catch up, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have a
Great
great long
talking to you.
weekend too.
Yes. Yeah. And everybody listening, thanks for listening, and hope you all have a great long weekend too.
Thanks. Cheers.
See ya.